What's up, guys? Welcome to Fitter Food Radio. This is episode
You
197.
actually look naked.
I've short some, I promise. Um, and it's me, Matt Whitmore, and of course, Keris Marsden.
I'll do.
I'm doing fantastically well.
This is our third
I
attempt
know.
at this episode. The first attempt,
Yeah.
I made the mistake of going, tell them about your run,
And then
your
just
18-mile run.
went on some really long-winded, mind-numbingly boring story about an 18-mile run.
The best bit was that you did realise halfway through that it was a really boring story and went, yeah, I just need to stop. We should share the clip because it was funny.
Yeah, I was like boring myself. But interestingly, it was like normally I like added detail, but even on this occasion, I was like going, okay, this is not relevant. Just get to the point.
I think you
But
were building the scene, which, if it was going to be a movie, would be important.
no, but do you know what? I was trying to add value. You know what I mean? I didn't just want it to be like, oh, let me tell you about my 18-mile run, because no one really cares.
No, but
But
you
I was trying to add value, and there was a lesson in it for me
yeah.
or for people. You know what I mean?
I'll give the abridged version. You basically should have gone for a run in the morning, left it till later, got too hot, didn't feel like it, had loads of work stress by that time, went on your run, felt like crap, rang me and said, I want to give up on this run. And I said, don't give up. And you finished the run and you went, so glad I rang you because I would have given up. And that was it. Moral of the story,
Keris.
you can get through anything with the right people around you.
That is the moral of the story.
That would have been, what's that app where it summarizes the book in like
Oh yeah, that was it. Bosh.
But you were going, then it got to mile one, and I was
At
thinking
mile one,
this.
these are my reflections.
Mile two.
I reflected some more. But no, it is true. Like
Could have
they
put you on double speed and then
look at all my WhatsApp messages. No, to be fair, like that is a really good summary because it highlights that not every session is going to go as you want it to.
No.
You know, some are going to feel harder than others. But in fact,
You know what it's about?
I did call you at I was about mile 12, and at this point I was like I'd hit a really big wall. And it was, do you know what it was? Is like my pace had dropped right down, and I was just thinking another 6 miles at this pace is going to take me ages. So it was more a time thing. I was thinking like this is just going to take me so long. And I rang you, didn't I? And we were chatting. And at first I was like, I just need a bit of company. And then I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna knock this on the head. And then you just said, no, no, don't. Don't be a pussy.
No, I did not. I said, I actually just thought, I just knew that you'll be in a worse mood for giving up.
Yeah.
And I think even if you could salvage one thing from the day where you had loads of stressful things happen and things not go your way. So I was like, you'll just feel worse. Whereas if you can just, and also one thing that stood out to me was you were going, I'm running really slow though, like really slow. Like, and I was like, so what? Like, this is just a run. And the whole point of it is mileage to get your legs used to the mileage. But what's really interesting about it is I had singing lesson today where I've moved into the group now, which is really weird because I love the group warm-ups more so than doing it on my own. And I love I get to be with people, which is really, really nice. However, we were asked to do a duet, and there's a really lovely guy, Martin's, in my class, and he said, I want to do Under Pressure with Queen and David Bowie, and I got selected to partner him as Freddie Mercury. And all week I've been like, what the actual, like, how am I going to sing this song? And it's ironic, Under Pressure. And then I was like, wait a minute, the point of this is that you go and you can howl like a cat if you want to. Like, you paid to do this. Like, it doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, just enjoy it. And I got there. And you know what? We had so much fun singing it. And like the group were laughing and stuff, because obviously there's a bit in it where it goes, love, 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 like really high. Yeah. And I kind of just put on a Freddie Mercury voice and everyone just started laughing and stuff. But it was so much fun. But if I'd have done like what you were doing, it's almost like, yeah, but because there's some really good singers in the group. And I knew this was going to happen. The first time I went into the group, I got a bit like, oh, they're really good. And I could feel my stomach getting a bit heavy and getting a bit nervous when it came to my turn. And I was like, yeah, but I don't really care because they still have songs where they'll go, you know, I mean, I don't care. Like, I'm like, oh, go on, you can do it, you can do it. And so they're like that with me. And at one point I was like, I think I am possibly the worst in the class. But again, so what? Who cares? Like, I'm here to get better and learn and challenge myself. And I've got nervous when I
But at least you were having a good time.
Yeah, true. That's true.
I was not having a good time at all. And I was looking at it going, I've got another hour of this. So
it's funny because I said to you that day, I don't know why you do this to yourself, because you have a lot of stuff on at the moment, a lot of pressure with work, under pressure. And I said, like, and you go and pick the thing that requires so many hours of training. But my only worry with it as well, with the marathon stuff, is I know why you do it, and I can't wait to come and watch you, even though I whinge and go, God, do we have to make another trip?
You just want a weekend in Porto.
Yeah, but not that. I want a weekend in Porto. And then you always need to book marathons and go, we can go here. And I'm like, yeah, but then I have to just walk around the city looking. It is nice. I'm joking.
I just, as long as you're at the finish line, that's all I care about. I don't, you know what I mean?
No, it'll be nice. I'm joking. It's fun. But I was like, I wish we could just go away to a city not to watch, not to do an event. Yeah. But when you rang me and you were like, you were like, I need something like a Coke, or it was boiling, wasn't it? You went, a Coke or an orange juice or something. So I stopped off at the supermarket. And this was like quite funny in that I was like, right, I'll get Matt a Coke. I'll get him an orange juice. I'll buy him some oranges. But then I was like, I need some vodka for me. Little story there.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you'll probably want some crisps because you keep coming back and you're not hungry at all, are you?
Nah.
But you like crave salt and carbs. I was like, you won't eat anything. It's quite late. So I'll get him some crisps. And I just got to the checkout and there was just so much shame around my shop. I was like, if any of you saw me now, you'd be like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Bit of body.
Yeah.
Full fat Coke, as they call it, even though
Coke, yeah.
It's not got any fat in it at all.
The vodka, by the way, is because so random, but just 1 or 2 shots of vodka can really alleviate my symptoms, can't it? It's insane. And
not every day.
No, I don't. I just occasionally have it. It's sometimes if it's like a social event or something. And I very easily I don't like vodka that much, so I don't have that much. But if I was to drink, that is now my drink. And it's really interesting because I've gone into quite a few gastro groups and there's been a lot of posts on, does alcohol help you? And you can split it down the middle. And some are like 100%. And I didn't drink when I fell sick, so I knew it wasn't alcohol related. Whereas some people get gut issues off the back of a lot of alcohol, which has really led me down the route of mine is a nervous system problem because alcohol helps me. I just don't want it to be the solution.
Of course,
obviously.
Of course.
But yeah, the vodka, Coke, and crisps. I was just like looking around, see if anyone knew me.
Yeah, Keris, hi.
Yeah. Oh. Well, it didn't help that the woman in front of me had 6 avocados, tomatoes, and kale. I was like, oh, that should be my shop.
And funny enough, I was initially going to say, oh, you know, I suppose you don't need to worry about like bumping into someone here. But then I was in the gym the other day, and I told you this, didn't I? And someone came up to me and was like, it's Matt, isn't it? And I was like, yeah. He was like, I love your podcast. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I felt like I'm a celeb. I was like, and I thought, bloody hell, we're in a different country. And imagine that at a checkout with that stash of stuff. It's Keris, isn't it?
Someone, do you ever remember?
Fitter Food Radio.
Someone came over when we were on the beach on a sunbed. Do you remember? The first thing I did was shove my feet in the sand. Oh, because I was like,
hit your bunions.
See my bunions, yeah. Whereas now, this is the other thing about singing classes. You have to go barefoot because we're in a yoga studio, and I've just been like, fine. I've got really I have to get over self-conscious.
Who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares?
And if you don't like my hobbit's feet, then you're not my friend.
Yeah. I don't care about you.
Yeah.
But that's another thing. Like, it was a bad idea running at that time. But interestingly, because I don't have an appetite after a big run, I just want fluid. And the thought of eating, I'm just like, can't do it. But then, of course, last night, after a big run, I had my Coke, I had a banana and a load of water, but didn't have any like real food. And then woke up literally 1:15 a.m. starving. Like, to the point where you're like...
All sleep coaches right now are going, well, what does he expect?
Yeah, I know, I get it. But I couldn't force the food down me at that time. I was I just would have felt like crap.
I wonder if you took like a big dose of melatonin on it, like like a 10-gram dose of melatonin,
just to like conk me out,
and didn't set your alarm, and then see what your recovery's like the next day.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I ain't gonna do this again. I'm gonna run in the morning, and if I don't, then I'll just do it another
Although maybe
day.
we're going to do a marathon again.
Yeah, I may not do that either, because that thought ran through my head many times. I was like, sod the marathon, this I'm done. But it was just one of them runs, like where but just quickly scaling back real quick, end up getting up because I was like, I need to eat. Smash that big packet of sweet potato crisps that you got me
with cinnamon, so
with cinnamon.
help your blood sugar.
It was very nasty.
It wasn't that bad.
Oh yeah,
it was the best crisp I could find.
Yeah, best of a bad bunch.
Yeah.
They were delicious. I had a load of Baby Bell and then some chocolate rice cakes as well. It was my like little middle of the night snack, and I watched 2 episodes of The Gentleman. Hence the reason why now my energy levels are flagging a little bit. But
most people are like, that's living your best life.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think I've shared that story before actually when I was quite obsessed with like bodybuilding. And I read this article about a bodybuilder who said that when he started setting an alarm in the middle of the night to eat, he just like grew, like his muscles just went like ballooned because he took on these extra calories. So I started putting a tub of cottage cheese, protein shake by the bed, and then setting an alarm and getting up in the middle of the night and having cottage cheese. And
I can't decide if that is something I would like. I just couldn't do that. And I love my food.
Oh no, it was grim.
I've only had like very short periods of waking hungry, and that's when I'm like when I had the gastritis and I just couldn't get enough calories in. As soon as I got fats in, I could sleep again, because it's such a big part of sleeping, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like your caloric intake, your calorie intake is a big part of like staying asleep as well. But other than that, I could never eat for the sake of eating in the night. I don't even know how you could wake up and force that, especially cottage cheese. Well, I mean, why don't you just have it on Rivita to make it just the full?
Well, no, like it's because cottage cheese is just dead easy to eat, isn't it?
I know you're looking for protein.
But full disclosure, it didn't last long because there was a lot of times I set the alarm and I was like, I'm just gonna go to sleep. I won't bother.
Yeah.
Because obviously once you've eaten, it's quite
That's what
stimulating,
I mean.
isn't
it? You're gonna have like stomach making noises.
But, what I was going to say is as grim as the run was yesterday, and it was really bloody grim if I haven't painted that picture. And like, I was basically like jogging at walking pace because I was determined just to like get it done. But that said, I was incredibly proud of myself because it's like
you had so many reasons not to do it as well. You justified it in so many ways. I said, you really channeled your inner stamina, because you couldn't really say inner warrior, because that was what you were like, found the inner warrior. And I was like, yeah, but you always find your inner warrior, but the inner stamina was like, do you know what I mean? Because like, there's so many things you could just go, it's too hard, it's too late, I've had a stressful day, loads of reasons. I think it was slightly selfish on my behalf that I would not hear the end of it.
You're like, no, you must finish this run. To be fair, I probably if I had knocked on the head, I probably would have come home in a sulk and gone straight to bed.
Yeah, well, you would say that. Yeah. I gotta watch some trash on Netflix.
But funny enough, I was running along, and so funny. We spent so much time on my run after like ending a previous episode. People were like, oh, bloody hell.
Oh, the story of the run.
But this is a bit better. I feel
it's a metaphor for life.
It's more conversational. But I decided, because sometimes I don't like running with music or anything. I enjoy the solitude of a run. And yesterday I was craving that. I didn't want anything. So I didn't take any headphones with me, and I'm running along. And then next thing you know, I went a slightly different route to normal just to mix it up a little bit. Next thing you know, I see these 2 dogs pelting down a driveway, barking at me, running towards me. I'm like, oh, here we go. Because you just don't know.
No.
Because here, like dogs are just out roaming and they're protecting their land and all of that. And you just don't know what they're going to be like. But then as they were running towards me, I could see they weren't looking at me. And I was like, why? Well, what's going on behind me? They're like running towards me, but looking behind me. And I turned around, there was a dog chasing me. So they were running towards the other dogs. I was like, shit.
Let's see your split times. You'd be like, oh.
No, but things in those situations, you stop, don't you? Because I'm like, if I run, they're going to chase or whatever. Turn out they were actually all lovely, but once I stopped and crouched down, I was like fussing them all and whatnot. And I was like, oh, maybe just stay here with the dogs. This is nice.
I was having a chat with you, wasn't I? I was like, do you reckon that we could like me, you and Hamish outrun, because we were saying about dogs chasing you, and it's like, could you outrun dogs? But the other day I was walking with Hamish and a cow. So the cows here they're electric fences, but they're just a piece of string. And like the cows are quite protective of their calves, aren't they? And occasionally, so on 2 walks, a load of the cows have come trotting over to the fence to see Hamish. Don't know why, they've just suddenly got fascinated with him. But on one, a few of them started galloping. I was on the phone to my mum and I didn't turn the phone around because we were FaceTime. And I was like, Mum, look. And she couldn't see the electric fence. She was like, Keris, are you all right? You know, should you be running? And then I said, no, there is an electric fence. But I said, the farmer's there. And he kind of whistled them and they stopped running. But I was saying to you, if they had broke through that, because to be fair, if they did want to stampede, I don't think that fence would do that much.
No.
Like, can you outrun a cow? I don't even know how fast a cow runs. And this got me like
Probably not in a straight line.
Hamish could. I don't know that we could.
Maybe in a, do a quick little sharp change of direction.
Well, my plan, I've got a backup plan, is just jump in the canal, because they won't come in the canal, will they?
Well, I doubt it.
And it's only waist high, the water in the canal. It's a farming canal, so it's to give water supply to the land. So that's my plan.
I love that you got it all planned.
I have got it all planned.
Well, you should just carry like a massive stick, and you could just do like a pole vault over to the other side.
Yeah. We get so fit just trying to dodge wild animals.
But what I was going to say, last story, and then we'll ditch this running nonsense.
I was going to tell a story about zebras, actually.
Well, let me finish the running story. And then, no, I don't think we could outrun the dog, by the way. Unless it was one of them old ones with like 3 legs, maybe.
Yeah.
But then I was going along, and then there was this other like big black dog guarding this land, and I was like looking, and I was like, I needed a pee, so I quickly stopped off at a bush, and I'm peeing, and this dog spotted me, and he's barking, and I'm like looking, thinking, God, I hope he doesn't like make chase whilst I'm halfway through. But he didn't. He was barking. I was looking. I was thinking, sure, he's not on a lead. Anyway, as I got to the house, he was in like proper guard dog mode and kept like kind of like charging towards me. So I was like, oh bloody hell! And so I like stopped and was like, trying to like keep him calm. But in the end, you have to kind of like do the make yourself bigger, and I was a bit like like get away type thing, and that kind of did the job. I was thinking, bloody hell. But then I was running, and then I went down a different road, because a lot of the roads like loop back to the same place, don't they? But I'd gone this different way, and I'd kind of gone round and this, that, and the other, and I thought, I think I know where I am. And then next thing you know, I realised I'd done a full loop, and I was back on that bloody road where all the dogs were. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I've done that. And I was like, I'm not going down here again. So then I had to loop back again and go the entire other way. I was like, yeah, that road is off limits.
There's nothing worse than getting lost when you're tired as well.
Oh yeah. This was all adding up as well, because I was already knew I wasn't in a very good headspace. I was sweating buckets because it was so hot. Already been chased by dogs. I had to do 2 like loo stops, and then that I was just like, oh my God, please just get this over with, get me home.
I was going to say that,
but I did it, Fizz.
You did it.
I did it thanks to my biggest cheerleader. You can do it.
Do it for me. But yeah.
Yeah. So what about zebras then?
Actually, I'm going to come back to zebras.
You seen one in Portugal?
No, I was going to come back to zebras, because walking the dog here, there are like you said, like lots of dogs kind of roam in. And what is one of my fears when I came here was like, oh, we're going to get attacked by a dog. And we have had one attack by a dog, and you got bitten. That it can mean that like then every single walk is really stressful with Hamish, because you're like, oh, is that cow in the field, or what about that dog? And you could then start to basically let that dictate every single morning, and be your kind of like dominant thought process.
I know what you're going to say now.
And basically I was reading a book, and it's about kind of like chronic illness, chronic pain, and it's really good. It's called The Way Out by Alan Gordon, and he talks about the nervous system, and he says essentially, there's books like Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers and stuff like that. Like there's people have written about this before, but he gives an example of zebras where he said, imagine you've got 3 zebras. He says you've got Fearless Frank, who is almost oblivious to everything that's going on, and he's just like totally happy, like going about his day and like eating the grass. And then you've got Nervous Nick, and then I think it's Normal Nigel. And he said we should aim to be like Normal Nigel, because Nervous Nick is too like fear focused all the time. basically about, you know, the fact that zebras are vulnerable to attacks by lions. So he's like constantly like on the lookout, like, where's the next lion? When's it going to happen? And then he constantly goes to ZNN news channel to look at all the headlines that are about lions are getting faster and stronger. More zebras are dying every day. You are fucked, basically. And then he said, but Fearless Frank is almost like, well, whatever, like nothing can touch me. And he said in the end, Fearless Frank gets, of course, attacked and eaten by a lion because he just didn't have his wits about him and wasn't on the alert. Yeah. And then he said, like, and nervous, what did I say? Nervous Nick, he pegs it and runs off and survives, but leads a life that's just so painful and terrifying all the time because he's like, when's the next attack coming? And he said, whereas normal Nigel is like, I need to kind of be on alert mode. But then if I think the coast is clear, I'm just going to go, oh, isn't life amazing? Here's some nice grass. There's a hot zebra. Like, I'm just going to enjoy it. I've lived there a bit. And it's like, it was interesting because I was applying it to the walks and I was like, you just need to have, like you said, a big stick if you're going past a farm. And that's not because I want to do harm to any animal, but they do tend to be quite scared if you get to volvo over the canal.
Yeah.
But just to throw it like a spear. No, but like I have used it once or twice. Do you know what I've also noticed though? Like we did have a few like kerfuffles, and this is actually back in the UK because Hamish was still intact. I would get so nervous seeing a dog that Hamish would pick up on my nervousness, and then he would get his heckles up and get like almost like, okay, here comes danger. Keris is nervous. And if there was an attack, I couldn't even stop myself. I'd always just start screaming like, ah, Hamish, Hamish, Hamish. And so I did then go through a phase, I probably mentioned it before on the podcast, of whenever we saw a dog going, everything's okay, everything's good. And Hamish would actually start wagging his tail and like jumping a bit. He does it all the time if you raise your voice, doesn't he? Yeah. He's very responsive. And I've done that here. We've met dogs on the canal path and I've gone, and who's this? I'm sure the owners think I'm nuts because I'm like, and who's this lovely boy? But you see both dogs like wag their tails and they do get a bit like, who are you? And stuff. But I've changed my tone and energy and everything around seeing another dog. And it's definitely meant that everyone's a little bit more less wary, less likely to, you know, kind of end up basically like trying to knock 10 bells out of each other. But it was really hard initially, but I realized I'd developed this like fear, and the screaming was making the whole situation worse. And I'm sure parents have the same thing with kids. Do you know what I mean? Kids are looking at you to be like, it's all right, isn't it? It's safe, isn't it? The whole thing is safety, isn't it? That's what our nervous systems just need, that reassurance. And yeah, it's been a nice kind of like mirror seeing Hamish, where it's like, I need to make sure that Hamish thinks I'm safe, else he's going to get aggressive essentially.
Well, he does often, doesn't he? Like if we're like walking along the canal and then like we see another dog, he'll often like look at us almost as if to say like, is this okay? Or
yeah. Even yesterday actually, when I was jogging down the canal, I haven't told you this, a Labrador just came around the corner, really lovely, but black, like a black male intact. So I couldn't work out what breed it was at first. You always have a bit of, I am a bit like breedist, I guess, in that I'll kind of think that's probably an aggressive dog. That's not too worried. I'm not too worried. And, you know, like no kind of doodle dog seems to worry anyone, does it? As in like Labradoodles and no. Any of them, you're like, oh, be fine. But this dog kind of came out of nowhere and like charged, but like leaped like Hamish does, you know, when they leap, and he was barking and he was ready to like jump at me, and he kind of came up through the air, and I just kind of went, hello there, and I like fussed him, and immediately ears back, tail wagging, playing, you know. It was definitely ready to kind of suss me out and just protecting the owner. And she was like, so sorry, so sorry. I do think owners should be more wary. Like if I was scared of dogs, that would have absolutely frightened the crap out of me. But yeah, it's just, anyway, no more dogs. We're done.
Yeah, there you go.
Dog stories. But we're going to talk about hormones, aren't we? Which is actually on the subject of fear and stress and
actually,
nervous nicks don't have good hormone levels.
We found a good little segue.
Yeah.
There you go. See?
Do you think nervous nicks definitely don't have good hormone levels? Whereas, I don't know about Fearless Franks. Probably do have good hormone levels, but maybe too much of testosterone.
But no, it's like we always say though, don't we? It's like
too amped up.
You know, we often talk about like stress, cortisol. Like it's like, you know, our goal should not be to get rid of it. You know, it's just coping with it better.
Yeah.
Stress and it's like you say, in those situations, like we should have a level of stress, and there should be a level of fear and awareness around things, because essentially that could save our life one day. You know, if you're just too kind of blasé, not really taking any notice of the threats that are around you. You know what I mean? Like it could kick you in the arse a little bit, but equally you don't want to be a nervous Nick and just constantly freaking out about every little thing.
And that's why I think it's really good to look at your, like, speaking of animals, like, what's the pack doing? Do you know what I mean? So if you're a nervous person, quite fearful, and then you spend a lot of time with people who are very kind of glass half empty, anxious, negative, it's reinforcing your negative bias. And that's why we've always said we're quite good for each other, in that when you go down, I come up, and vice versa. Like in those situations, like we just said with the run, I'll often kind of be like, oh, he's struggling, I'm gonna show him that I know he can do this. And I think, but in a work capacity, in an office, in a partner, in a relationship, as a family, I think it's really important. And we do. Another thing I read this week, which was really interesting, I quoted it to you, is when you get married, for example, you're in a relationship, there are 6 of you in that relationship, because there's you two, and then all of the values and conditioning of the parents that come down. And then that's really hard to break. So all your fears and default emotions and kind of beliefs are kind of coming from, your parents will strongly influence that. So it's really helpful, I think, as a couple to look at like how you are around finances, how you are around, if you were a couple having children, kind of perceptions around that, about work ethic, around body composition. And I just think it is really interesting. And when you stop for a second, you realize most of your thoughts are not your own. And that's something I've been working on recently with she's actually amazing. She's a gastrointestinal psychotherapist who also is trained in hypnotherapy. And because I've tried that many things, this is like something that I'm trying to work on with my nervous system, because I think I've massively reduced my stress, but I haven't, in terms of, there's still thoughts there, like anxious thoughts, and kind of the chattering that goes on in my mind can still create a level of stress that doesn't even exist. I mean, it's not even a reality, but I can create it through chatter, through pressure, through, kind of inner critic stuff. And she was saying what's really interesting is that's come from somewhere, and her job is to help me find the source of it and then basically kind of drop it out of my belief system. And she said it could come from school, it can come from parents, it can come from religion. But yeah, it was just really interesting that you got these kind of beliefs feeding into everything that you do. And there's a lot for me around working very hard and needing to earn the right to relax. We were saying, do we rename this podcast "Don't Be Seen Without a Brush in Your Hand"? Do you remember? Because it was a quote that someone said to us who'd been diagnosed with terminal cancer, and it really spoke to us, didn't it? It was like, and he said, I've worked so hard and stressed about work a lot in my life, and I think it's because as a kid I was told, don't be seen without a brush in your hand. It can become part of your identity, can't it? Like you're looking for that validation, and I think we all want that. We all want some, I guess, recognition and acknowledgement of why we're here, what we're doing. And when you haven't found it, or you're fighting to find it, I think it creates a lot of internal stress. That means that your capacity for external stress, like being chased by a dog, is just so decreased, I mean, and I think most of us actually lack physical stress, if anything, don't we? We have so much kind of, I would say, mental stress going on. I think the mental stress is massive for most people, especially the way society's changing. If you've got kids, you're probably trebling it, because you're probably also forecasting the life of each child in some way and how that's going to pan out. Obviously we kind of work with lots of clients, so we also kind of receive insights into the world from them and their experience of the world. So I think it's kind of occurred to me that I think a lot of us are going through, our stress tolerance is more about the kind of way that we interpret the world and the dialogue that goes on, between us and other people, but also between within ourselves, about ourselves.
For sure.
And that is it's influencing our actions and behaviors and pressures that we put on ourselves. And then it is really hard to just be and relax and be mindful and be zen and go and actually enjoy a day out with the family, because there's just too much kind of chatter that's very hard to let go of. That was a very long, I don't know what to say, like a long blah blah.
Blah blah blah.
Blah blah blah.
No, but like,
what's that from, by the way? What film?
Hotel Transylvania in
Yes,
it.
yeah.
Blah blah blah.
Blah blah blah.
We often
We like that film, don't
yeah,
we?
yeah. I love a good like cartoon film. I really do.
You mentioned, you quoted the other day, what was it, from Up?
Up.
I like you. You don't talk very much.
Yeah, yeah.
Neither of us said that to each other.
No, no, but God, yeah, that film had me in tears from the off. Do you remember
Yeah.
when she died? Oh my God.
You just
Um,
ruined it. That's a spoiler.
oh well. It's
Is
not really
it?
a spoiler. It
It does
happens in like the
yeah, it does
first
happen
five
very quickly.
minutes.
Yeah.
It doesn't like have any bearing on like the film. But no, I think what's interesting is what came to mind then when you were talking about, you kind of marry six people or it's like,
I'm actually seven because you were raised by your grandparents and your mum, so you had three parents, so
yeah,
there's
that's
seven of
true.
us.
Yeah. But what I was gonna say was is like, you no matter what, like you are influenced by the people around you. You know what I mean? You can't help but like not to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, for example, especially your elders, especially like your peers, like it's especially, when you're younger, you look up to your parents, and even as you're older, you still look up to your parents. And, I've, like very much like look up to your dad, and he's very business savvy, like he's incredibly knowledgeable, and it's really nice to have like certain conversations with him. Um, but similar to yesterday, when I was on the phone to you and I was like, "Do you know what? I'm going to knock this on the head." Like I
Did you
just,
go for a run yesterday?
huh?
Did
Haven't
you
I
go for
mentioned it? And but you were like, "No, like you can do this, and you will give yourself shit if you don't. Like see this through. It doesn't matter how slow you go. Like, but think about like, yeah, you're saying all the right things,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
straight
And
away
it
I
was
was
only because you
like,
were, if you were injured, I'd have said pull up,
no,
obviously.
exactly. But that's the thing. It's like
Yeah.
having those people that can understand the situation and kind of know when to give you a little push and know when to maybe be a, because in a way it's like it wasn't that you weren't being compassionate. If anything, what you were doing was very compassionate because it was like, I know you
Yeah, yeah.
and I know that you will be really annoyed with yourself if you don't finish this. And as hard as it was, like I was so grateful to have that nudge. And I think like we it's difficult because you want to be a good friend, you want to be a good like partner or whatever it might be, but sometimes like you just need to be a bit more. Can't even think of the word, but you need more people in your life that go, no, no, don't quit, don't stop, keep going. It's uncomfortable, it's painful, but it's going to be bloody worth it. Like,
Do you know what's so good about that is like, just as you were talking, I was thinking about with a lot of clients that we coach, and we coach some together now, don't we? There's elements to which we want people to be more compassionate to self. And it is really important to start to, if I say the word self-love, people might go, "Ooh," like roll your eyes, whatever. But it's so, so important that you are proud of yourself and you love yourself and you
yeah,
see yourself as an awesome human being. It takes a lot of time. And I would say it's a journey that's work in progress for me, but it's definitely helping the more I've done meditation, mindfulness, even talking about the psilocybin, just having like my eyes open to like what is really important, and like at the end of the day, when this journey's over, what am I gonna have loved the most about it? And what memories will I cherish? But I do think we're also in a society where there's lots of ways to justify things that don't serve you through self-love. And where we often see it is obviously things like the body image kind of arena where everyone's like, oh, be overweight, love yourself. And I'm so pleased that there's a shift in body image and body confidence conversations. But I don't want people to be overweight and eating crap food and feeling awful, and then going, yeah, but it's cool because it shows that I'm body confident. I think in a way, I almost wish you could just, I don't know, it's like just imagine you're the weight that you want to be and what would you do? And it's like you would want to, the energy, you would want the vitality, and you would want to feel confidence. Confidence isn't about shape and size. Confidence is a feeling that you get because you master something that you didn't think you could master.
yeah,
And then you're like shown your kind of inner capacity or inner strength, and then you want more and you do more. And it's like, what's funny about the singing lessons is there's a warm-up exercise. I did it with you in the car, didn't I? And it's like you have to go, I can't even do it now. And the first 3 lessons I could not do it, and I was getting angry, and now I can, and I didn't do it very well then. You have to be warmed up, but you have to do the keys. You go up and down doing that. I didn't even have the capacity to basically make a sound through my lips, and a few other people in the class have moaned when I've joined the group, gone, I can't do this. And eventually it's come, and just that tiny thing has gone. You just never know. Like, I could be the next Susan Boyle, for all you know. I could have operatic abilities, but I've never sung, so I don't know. I don't think I do. And I think for me at the moment, there's this whole thing of, because we're stressed, I see a lot of self-soothing going on, and it's totally justified in some circumstances. But I have friends who are battling some big stuff right now that are doing nothing but self-soothing, and I can see them getting sicker as a result of that.
Yeah.
And I worry about that. So, you know, I can see them kind of drinking more alcohol, eating lots and lots of takeaways, and, you know, kind of like, well, I tried eating healthy, it didn't work, so fuck that. And I get it. And it kind of doesn't, you know, I'm not saying food is the fix. It's definitely been something that, but I just feel like it's a resource that does need to be in place most of the time. Just like we have to put petrol, oil, and water in the car, we've got to put nutritious food in the body whilst we work on, you know, the more kind of deeper stuff, which is probably going to be, you know, the kind of your mental health, your stress tolerance, all that kind of thing. But generally we have this like window of tolerance for stress, and you know, we can take some physical stress, we can take some mental stress, but we're just kind of going out of it. And I think we're, like I said, not enough of the physical stress, if anything. And me and you have found when we do go and try something like rock climbing, surfing, or we did dune buggies the other day, we get this, like, you get the rush, you get the adrenaline, but it's totally different to when, you know, your laptop basically decides to just switch itself off in the middle of of you writing a 12-week program in True Coach and then losing the whole thing.
Don't even talk to me about technology vows.
They are the worst, aren't they?
Well, I had one just the other day, didn't I?
Yeah.
I was like,
I can't even.
We won't talk about it.
I can't even. I won't even. That's my statement now, isn't it? When I'm having a really bad day, I go, can't even. I won't even. And that's it. I don't even finish the sentence. I can't even talk about it. It's that bad. I can't even. I won't even.
But in a way, like, you know, what we were just saying then, it's like, that's a big part of coaching, right? It's like, you want to have an element of compassion and empathy with your coaching clients, and we do. But at the same time, they also need someone in their corner going, no, like, I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to let you use that as the story you're going to tell to justify, you know, this action or lack of an action. And I think it's like anything, it's how it's worded, it's, you know, it's how it, what's the context. And like there's a lot of like clients that message me afterwards, and they're like, God, I was so grateful that you said that.
Do you know?
Because it's like, we need more of it. We need more of it. It's that simple. Like,
do you know what we think we're really good at doing as well? Is we're all lawyers. We're all collecting evidence for our negative preferred bias that keeps us in our comfort zone.
100%.
And it's really good to have someone else come in, a coach who's like a lawyer on the opposite side, because you've painted this picture and this future. And it's very, this is as I realized just having this session with this psychotherapist, where she was like, you have so many rules, and it's rules to you. It's not like you know, it's not a principle, it's a rule. Like, you've literally set yourself this rigidity, and you can't even see it. But also, like I said, with that comes the fears that were painted for me all throughout my life by, it can be anything from parents to bosses. My dad is absolutely paranoid about money and saving for the future. So he constantly wants to talk to me about, you know, my pension and all these sorts of things. And I understand it, but it's almost like he is convinced that so many terrible things will happen in terms of politics that will literally have me living like a pauper when I'm 80, you know. So and I understand it, and he's right to some degree. We've had these big chats about it, but I'm like, you need to also kind of trust a little bit more, do you know what I mean, and not think that everything doom and gloom is going to happen. Like, it's really hard, because and then we have these debates where he'll go, but I've got a very protective mindset. He does, but I'm like, you've also got the most negative doom and gloom mindset. Like, you send me, I call him like the bad news like the bad newspaper, because anything bad that's happening in Portugal, it comes through on WhatsApp. There's a fire, there's a sewerage leak around this coast, don't go swimming, COVID outbreak near you. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like, fear. Like, he is he's almost like Fearless Frank's dad, basically. Like, Fearless Frank, sorry, he's Nervous Nick's dad. He's like, you need to be nervous. And I get why, because it's served him at times, and he's made decisions which have been for the better. But what I guess he doesn't realize is I have enough knowledge with social media and information. Do you know what I mean? I've got enough of that stuff coming at me that I just need to put some things in place for me. But yeah, I think and it means that I can then start to justify lots of actions on the basis of fear. And you know, I could go, do you know what, I need to eat 100 grams of chocolate today. I need to have a drink. I need to have something to, And we had this chat the other day, actually, about, I was talking to some friends about alcohol, and I said, the one thing that me and you do, don't we? We've now drunk, as I've established that vodka is actually beneficial. And we drink again, but we don't drink when we're stressed, do we?
No.
Like, that is our kind of, not a rule, it's a principle, because it only makes us feel worse usually the next day, because we might overdo it a bit and we might overeat if we're drunk. Whereas if we're kind of in a very chilled celebratory mood, we'll have a drink to literally just go, you know, isn't life good? And we rarely have more than two, and it's kind of enough to relax us, isn't it?
And then that's a big thing, isn't it? It's like, it's what you associate things with, and we're like, we much prefer to associate wine or whatever with just having some nice quality time together and some conversation, and it not being something we go to as a fix when we're a bit stressed, a bit worried about something. And you know, I'm not making any judgments for anyone that does, like, but we're like, right, we need something else. So it's like, if we are feeling a bit like wound up about something, we're like, right, let's go for a walk. You know, or, you know, which, to be fair, like, that's our go-to.
And 9 times out of 10
you feel better.
Oh my God. And now, literally, now I've got to, I think you're really getting it now, because even when I was away recently in the UK, and you just messaged and went, I've had the worst day, I'm going for a walk. And then we'll chat on the walk. And do you know what it is? I think because a lot of stressors now, we are sedentary when we're experiencing them. So stress is an energy. So you're pumping out adrenaline, stress hormones to run from a lion that doesn't exist. And if you sit still, it just swims around the body. You know, you're probably raising your heart rate, your blood pressure, you just feel like crap. And this is why some people have said, do like 100 squats when you're stressed. But for us, a walk just feels much better. You lose the tension. But like, Hamish does a shakeout after his little run-ins with the dog. You know, he'll get all tense, heckles up, and then big shake, and
it's over it.
Like, you know, sometimes I've just put Madonna on and just gone for a bit of a boogie out like, on my walk, and just immediately feel better. And it's like, suddenly you're that child on a dance floor, and life's good, and you get perspective. I think also being outside gives you perspective. Like, tomorrow will be a different day. Whereas I think if you sit still and stay in a small room when you're quite stressed, I think this is where offices could probably be quite detrimental. So where possible, I used to work in office, I would get out and like run up, there's toilets were on the next floor up, so you just run up the stairs, come back down, and immediately I'd feel better. Do you know what I mean? Or go and get a coffee outside, but go and see something, see a different view, see a different environment, and see the sky, and just go like, tomorrow this won't even be a thing, you know, I can let it go. But it's hard, I think, in that environment. But I also think, I watched a documentary yesterday. Someone said, have you seen this Panorama documentary on menopause? Because I think the things that we're seeing on our phone, this is probably what we look at the most across the day. So who you're following, what you're watching, the films, the TV programs, everything is influencing your perception of your future, your, again, default emotions, your fears, and it's either going to tap into what you're pretty biased about anyway, or it, you know, has potential to change it. And just going back to this documentary, I watched it because I have like an empowered menopause program, which I put together because off the back of my experience, I was so frustrated with spending a lot of money to have a lot of people put the fear of God in me, in terms of like, I had endocrinologists say like, oh, you're so young, like you shouldn't have hormone levels like this, you're going to need HRT, you've got risk of heart disease, dementia, you'd be stupid not to take this. But then obviously my mom's had breast cancer, so I'm like, yeah, but I'm scared about that too. So I've got this medication that increases my risk of breast cancer, but you're telling me if I don't take it, I've got a high risk of heart disease and dementia. And no one gave me a chance to talk often, so I never felt like anyone was listening to me. I'd be kind of packed often, don't be silly, and also think about your bones, take it. And then when you kind of started to like research it, more stuff comes up about symptoms. My symptoms actually built, I think, off the back of the knowledge I was acquiring. Do you know what I mean? I'd be like, oh, joint pains, and then the next day I'd be like, oh, I've got joint pains. And I ended up spending huge amounts of money to get second opinions, try and find people I could trust. And when I did the research, and obviously just looking in the scientific literature, looking at supplements, one of my takeaways and conclusions was, this is now an industry that capitalizes on fear and vulnerability, and gets women to spend a lot of money on supplements that aren't going to have no scientific backing. And this was mentioned in this documentary. And I think people spend a lot of money on tests and just throw money at the problem, when actually so much of what needs to be done comes from you. And it's a life stage that we've, is inevitable, and we're going to go through it. But there's actually tremendous research on the benefit of nutrition, of physical activity, of exercise, mindset support. There's even cognitive behavioral therapy for menopause now as an actual practice. But I don't think you necessarily need that. I think just mindfulness and working on mindset, using apps, meditation, you could do this for next to nothing. I got a deal on one of the apps. I think it was like £40 for the year. It's like absolutely like a bargain.
Yeah.
And this is where I think mobile phones are amazing for us, because if we use them properly and wake up and say, like, I'm going to put some nice uplifting music on, I'm going to do a meditation, I'm not going to look at social media channels until this time like we used to, then you've got like this like healing tool in your pocket. But actually what we do is use them to absolutely like just press self-destruct a lot of the time, don't we, in terms of what we're looking at and doom scrolling and things like that.
But also as well, like it's all too easy to, like, you're talking about the the panorama thing.
It was basically ZNM. It was like,
yeah, but that's the thing. It's like
everyone's out to get you.
Everyone's out to get you, but it's also like, let's say for example, you're someone who's maybe just started HRT.
Yeah.
You're a menopausal woman. You just started HRT. You see this panorama thing. You know what I mean? It's like, oh God, have I done the right thing? Should I have done that? Like,
you like second guess yourself.
Yeah, like there's always something out there to make you second guess yourself, like whether it is the right thing or it isn't the right thing. And I think, like, we were chatting about it, weren't we? Once we'd kind of like, well, you watched it, and we were kind of like talking about how, like, the whole menopause thing, it's just like a lot of things, like it became a bit on trend, didn't it? Like it was very, it was everywhere on social media, and don't get me wrong, it's bloody important, and it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be spoken about, and it's great that it has got more exposure in that sense, because I think, the likes of Davina McCall, have almost helped kind of
raise the profile of everything.
Yeah, but almost, it's
raise
like
awareness.
Exactly, and you can still live a great life. Like it's not like, oh, you're menopausal, that's it for you type thing.
This is my frustration with the documentary was, it was disempowering rather than empowering.
Yeah.
And what I really want like women to know is, there's actually so much information, and actually all of the British Menopause Society guidelines on prescribing HRT have a section on the HRT and the medication side of HRT, and then a section on lifestyle and all of the things that have been proven to help. And I know personally, so the documentary itself talked about, for example, nutritional supplements, and half of them are just a waste of time. And I totally agree with that. What the nutritional supplement industry has identified how lucrative this life stage is, and developed tons of formulas. And I'm not keen on formulas for men, women, anyone. I don't like supplement formulas anyway, because they have tiny amounts of everything that do nothing. And if anything, probably maybe more risk, because you're taking far too many things in one product. And it's almost like, oh, you know, medicinal mushrooms are popular. Let's put some lion's mane in there. Let's put some herbs in. Let's stick ashwagandha. Ashwagandha goes in every menopause supplement. You can buy menopause chocolate in the high street now. They've just stuck ashwagandha in it. And it's like, well, it'll calm me down.
Yeah.
You know, who needs chocolate to be nicer? Like, do you know what I mean? We're all trying not to eat too much of it as it is.
Yeah, yeah.
So they just know our vulnerability. They know where we want to go. They know where our brains are like, can I get it's a lot easier to buy a menopause kombucha than it is to, you know, hit a regular step count target, go to the gym twice, you know, just twice a week. You've got time for that, you know, or 3 times a week, or to get to bed earlier, you know, to do a meditation. Like they think about the pleasurable things. This is the kind of menopause marketing industry. I'm thinking about what is got a little fluff on yours. What's really attractive to our brain, and let's turn it into a menopause product and then sell it and get Instagram, you know, pushing it on down people's news feeds. And I think what really frustrates me is this documentary highlighted some of that, which was great. And by the way, when it comes to nutritional supplements, there is so much research around certain key nutrients that are raised in menopause, and ashwagandha can help with some of the symptoms, especially things like mood, sleep, by just kind of regulating the nervous system, maybe helps with anxiety. But personally, like, nothing has helped me more than actually being consistent with walking and meditation. Nothing. And I tried everything and I doubled doses. I didn't even care. I was like, sort it, I'll try it, you know.
Yeah.
Nothing makes a difference. Your brain is so frigging powerful and so trained after decades of life to think a certain way. And as we've just said, being reinforced by environments and people. So I don't actually recommend those a lot of the time. I've covered it in Empowered Menopause. I'm like, here's the science on this, this, and this. Where you do see great science is creatine for menopause. And obviously that's going to help on a number of levels: energy, training, and brain fog and brain function. Making sure your vitamin D and iron are good. That's not a supplement. That's just make sure you're optimal. Like we said, like put petrol, oil, and water in the car. Do you know what I mean? Like put the resources in and the good food in, you know. We do this with everything that we own except our body. I've said that a million times on this podcast. We make sure we've got the right charger, the right phone case, the right apps, everything. With our body, it's like, whatever, you know, like we don't think about the ingredients needed to make stuff, to make brain chemicals, to make immune cells, to regulate the immune system, to make hormones.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the documentaries, like I said, it was just fear mongering. And the second part was HRT. And we know men and women, we have clients, we have friends who are kind of going through a process of having HRT. I've had HRT. We've got, you know, lots of male friends who take things like testosterone. And I think one thing that we've noticed is, again, there's not much education or exploration when they're prescribed this around things like, you will have a life stage as a woman where you may need HRT. But some of this is also being affected by two things. Like, one is stress and emotional health, which is naturally going to suppress reproductive hormones. And the second side of it is like your body composition. And none of this is mentioned on these documentaries. It was like, they had two agendas: bring down the supplement companies and slate these stupid menopause formulas, which I agree with in a way. But then it didn't highlight what was worthwhile taking in menopause. No empowerment. And then the second part of it was slate these private HRT clinics who started doing questionable doses, which I've also seen. I got told to double my dose of estrogen at one point because my symptoms wouldn't alleviate. And what was really interesting was I questioned it because, again, mum said cancer. I'm like, I don't feel comfortable doubling my dose of estrogen, and I can't tolerate progesterone. My body hates that stuff. So I wouldn't be able to match it necessarily. Or if I did, I was going to feel awful. And I started to increase the dose and got the symptoms of hormone excess. And actually what I ended up doing was changing my nutrition and making some lifestyle changes, left a job, and the nutrition changes kicked in within 48 hours. I managed to get rid of night sweats. So it was actually linked to histamine, which is, again, something I highlight on the program, is half these things aren't necessarily menopause, or it's a side effect of menopause hormone levels changing. But the problem was the night sweats were histamine related, not related to the fact that my estrogen levels were low and I couldn't control vasomotor function, because I literally just went to eating some fish and greens and it changed within 48 hours. So it was a gut thing that was going on for me.
But I think, like, that's the thing, isn't it? Is like, you've worked with a lot of women in menopause, right? And I think it's safe to say that your approach with every single one of them has been different, right? Like it's not a case of just going, oh, you're menopausal. Here's your
Yeah, yeah.
here's the menopause protocol.
Yeah, yeah.
Like everyone is different in the same way that, I know it's not the same, but if someone comes to you with a fat loss goal, it's not as simple as going, fat loss, here's the fat loss
Yeah, yeah.
protocol. Like, yes, there's principles that you follow, but
There's principles that will help most people in both of those
yeah,
two situations. But then there's
but there
also
is an element of personalization.
that, yeah, but there's also an element of yeah, to fit with their lifestyle. But then there's also an understanding of it. So for some people, I'll often talk about the nutritional principles are just going to help so much with cognitive function that you then won't need so much sugar and alcohol and coffee. And that's how it needs to be presented, whereas if you're just going, eat the rainbow, do you know what I mean? And you're like, are you serious? I wake up feeling floored in terms of fatigue and joint pain, and you want me to like eat the fucking rainbow? Do you know?
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. I have no serotonin in my body right now. I just need a hit of something,
Yeah.
and same, like a lot of women at this life stage are in a care sandwich with kids, teenagers, plus elderly parents to care for, and whipping. So many of my clients are up and down the country like you wouldn't believe. And so we said in a previous podcast, one of our jobs has been like, what can you eat at a service station? Do you know what I mean? Because and they have so much responsibility. And I've often started to talk to them a little bit more about saying no more and just going like, realistically, if you're on a plane that was going down right now, have you got the gas mask on yourself before? Because also you really don't want this to impact your health to the point of no return, which it has done with some clients. They've worked themselves sick, or not worked, but delivered on life to other people. And a lot of this comes back to what I was basically working on with my therapist, was not feeling worthy.
Yeah.
So you give to everybody else. It was really interesting. In fact, everyone can answer these questions that I did with you.
Yeah.
So she asked me, I talked to you about you, and she said your partner has a really much more authentic view of you than you do, which was interesting. And so she said, I want you to go and ask him 3 things that he likes about you. So anyone listening, it's a good thing to do with a best friend or a partner, and just say, someone who has your back, like, what 3 things do you love about me? And see what they say.
Yeah.
And then what was the other thing I had to ask you? I can't remember. It's gone from my head now.
What things, wasn't it what things you could do?
What should I do to make myself happier?
Yeah.
To look after myself? And I had to ask you that question.
Yeah.
She did ask me, but my first answer was, she said, when do you feel like, what makes you happy? When do you feel good? And I said, when everyone else is happy around me, everyone I love.
Yeah.
And I've had this since being a kid, so it's obviously like a trait, but I used to sit down and for something nice, and then just go, is mum happy? Is dad happy? Is my best friend happy? Is my brother happy? And I've always done that. And if anyone, I go, oh, I think, oh no, they're going for a breakup at the moment, I need to get my phone and text. And I can't sit still until everyone's happy. And she said, this is where this is something that we need to change. But I don't think I'm the only one. I think anyone with kids, and looking after your parents, it's really hard when someone you love is not in a good place to find happiness yourself. But that is something that she's saying you've got to build in, like, practices that help with that. And I think that's why I focused a lot more on kind of, you can't have that many clauses to your own feel good emotions. It's not going to work. And then you said, by the way, when I said, what do you like about me? You went, but you care so much about everyone. And I was like, this is why.
but this opened a really good conversation, actually, because it was like, in a way, it's like what I love about you was also on the list of things that you could work on to make you happier.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like, I love that you're as caring, giving, and as selfless as you are, but on the other hand, I wish you'd kind of dial it in a little bit. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like,
I think everyone around me would say that, as in, like, family, and people like.
But it is like, it's like we keep saying, it's like there's a balance to these things, and it's like, sometimes what's like a really
So we need to be
admirable,
normal
like,
Nigel, don't we?
yeah, like,
Yeah.
but like something that could be a really admirable trait can also work against you.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And again, it's striking that balance in the same way that we say, don't try and get rid of stress, just manage it better.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
find a better way to cope with it. And but I've got a question for you, right? So obviously, anyone who's listening that is maybe approaching menopause, going through menopause, like, there is of course the route of like HRT, supplementation and things like that. But what are your kind of, like I just said a moment ago, like a lot of times there's a few things that everyone can almost like can benefit from. Like what would you say they were like in your experience when working with?
Do you mean like practical things
Yeah,
or?
like maybe that are kind of like excluding the HRT side of
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
at the
Yeah. So
minute.
I think, so I'll often say, if you can afford, and if not, you can usually get this from a GP, it is good to get a set of blood tests at the start of this process because, and the reason I say that is, if you're iron deficient, that's probably what a lot of the symptoms are. Your hair may fall out, you'll feel really tired, your joints will hurt, you won't be able to think straight. Am I boring you?
I was really tired. I don't know if I told
So,
you, but I did a big run
oh,
yesterday and I had to get up in the middle of the night because I was really hungry.
Matt just yawned if you're listening on
Yeah,
the podcast.
sauce.
Um, so yeah, so a blood test to check in on just key nutrients like vitamin D, iron. I've caught loads of insufficiencies, like pretty low levels, and they're going to mimic menopause supplements. And you're not going to, HRT is not going to scratch the surface. Do you see what I mean? And they might say more HRT, but you're also going to not be able to do the things that are all other things that are going to be helpful. So it is good if you've never had blood tests, especially if you're prone to low iron and you haven't been out in the sun much. Definitely like a really good, a lot of places do well woman profiles. I'll often in the UK recommend Medicheck's Thriver. So that can be something that's really helpful. Definitely a high protein diet. We have banged on about this forever, especially at breakfast. This is the game changer for me for energy and focus productivity. If you kind of, again, I would often say grabbing a wrap, a slice of toast, all that kind of stuff, it's like putting 10 quid of petrol in your car and then going 100 miles. Do you know what I mean? You're going to need to stop again and stop
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
Like you want to fill the tank, and filling the tank is a good 30-gram serving of protein at breakfast. You could use protein powders, you could do, but it's generally easy today with things like eggs, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt. I eat things like chicken avocado for breakfast. I don't care anymore. Breakfast to me is often leftover dinner. I would rather have the capacity to think straight across. My morning is my best working period. So I
Yeah.
want to be fueled up for it. And collagen is not protein. This is something else that
Yeah.
collagen is so heavily marketed at perimenopausal and menopausal women, and it's not a good source of protein. It has a really poor amino acid profile, but you should definitely whack a spoonful of collagen in your tea, coffee, whatever, because again, for things like joint health, surgery recovery, tendonitis, it can be helpful. Skin, hair, and nails. Often women say the combination of high protein and collagen does tend to improve the appearance of those things. But again, it needs to be quite a decent whack. So I don't go for the expensive brands, the little pills. I often just say somewhere like My Protein, often the kind of gym brands, just get a good 10, 20-gram scoop. Walking would be the next thing. And just being consistent with that, because often when you are overwhelmed with symptoms and life stress, it can be quite hard to think. You might be a gym goer and you're fine with that. And I've often said like 2 resistance sessions a week. They could be 10 minutes, they could be 20, 30 minutes. Just move your muscles. It's
Yeah.
really, really important. Don't overthink it. But if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, then just focus on walking as much as possible. What I tend to say avoid is like high impact and tons of cardio, and that's probably going to serve you the least in terms of more exhaustion, more stress on joints, and maybe not having the kind of mental health benefits. Some people find it restorative and get like the sweat, but I still think a brisk walk is probably one of the best options, but consistent. So it's not like on 2,000 to 5,000. Most of my clients that first come to me are about 2,000 to 5,000 steps in the week, and we push up to 7, and then eventually they almost all get to around 12 and stay on 12 because of the weight loss benefits. And then outside of that, I think when it comes to supplements, I often say, I actually have a supplement cheat sheet. So if you head to Instagram, you can grab a copy of that. But creatine, vitamin D for through the winter, and magnesium are my three that most people, I would say, benefit from. And then there's some great research on things like turmeric, ashwagandha, bacopa monieri, I can never say it, monieri, for things like brain fog, but it's not going to have the impact unless you are moving, eating well, and sleeping.
Yeah.
And for sleep, actually, do you know, I hope it may or may not kind of become available in the UK, but I often say use melatonin. Well, I use melatonin, you know, like we're in Europe now, so it's available over the counter. But and I think now, like, just something like, you know, focusing on mindfulness, whether that is that you take up a hobby, if you're a really busy person, you know, busy brain. For me, one thing that kicked in quite big, and I didn't really see it coming, I don't think, was the anxiety element got worse. So I got a bit more, you definitely saw this. I got a bit more kind of, I often say I've got a mixture of OCD, ADHD, and like, I have little bits of all of it, and depression some days, you know, so I can find my mood could go really, really low. Sometimes this is maybe with the cyclical nature of hormones. Sometimes it's life stress. Sometimes it was just
me hormones.
Yeah, sometimes it was actually, again, kind of COVID resurfaced a bit because I'd get a breakout of dermatitis, so I'd know the virus was kind of back up. ADHD for sure. I don't even want to go there, but I know that if I did any tests, I would pass with flying colours with a diagnosis. You've said the same. I'm not sure many people wouldn't at this point in time, with the way that our brains are being wired up by technology and stimulus. But I did get more OCD, and I realized that was actually a kind of side effect of anxiety. So, and what really helped with that was, again, I would say the combination of, we did the psilocybin, but really the meditation and the kind of visualizations and journaling. So more of those mindful activities. And the reason I went down the route of having CBT and therapy, because I just wanted to explore the kind of origin and be supported through the process of changing some of those things. But it was really nice to find through meditation and visualization that basically anxiety is causing me to want to keep really, really busy and repeat behaviors very specifically, almost like to tick off. It's like a ticking off thing that makes me feel safe. And I've had to switch that to things like breath work and seeing fears come in and not reacting to them, not giving them space, not giving them a presence in my life, not making them a reality, like seeing them. A great way that this is explained actually in the Way Out book by Alan Gordon that I mentioned with the zebras was, he said a lot of things like symptoms, if you've got health anxiety, imagine yourself as a diver in the sea and a school of fish come in, and that's your symptoms, and you just observe and be curious. And for a lot of people, these symptoms will go. But you could do the same with an emotion. You could have an emotion comes in that says, like, you are such a rubbish friend, you're such a bad partner, you shouldn't have said that, you shouldn't have done that. And you can sit there and just observe it, or you can accept it, live it, breathe it, and think it's true. And what I've got better at with meditation, and I'm going to give Oliver Jenkins James a shout out because he's one I followed on Aura app, but you can go on Instagram and follow him, is a lot of his meditations are based on anxiety. And so he would often say, if a thought's coming in, and I'm like, how does he know? How does he know this thought's coming? And he'd often say a thought linked to anxiety that would then make me go and repeat behaviors to try and cope with it. You see what I mean?
No, absolutely. And I think, like, you know, like like we said, in a world where we're so connected and information is so easily accessible, like, and I don't know, I feel like people are on more high alert than they used to be. People are a bit more like anxious than they used to be because they've got access to information to fuel that. And I just think, like, you know, when when you do think of like women who are just hitting menopause, who are already maybe like quite anxious, got a lot of other bits and bobs that they're worrying about in life, then all of a sudden it's like, bam, let's screw your hormones
you get floored a bit. The fatigue is the worst bit, and then with that comes the brain fog. So you don't have, for me, the biggest frustration was I've always had capacity to fire through stuff, like cognitively, and I lost that, and that, you know, was one of the hardest things. But I'm hoping we'll finish now. You're getting tired.
I need a nap.
I'm hoping some blokes are still listening.
Will you brush my hair until I fall asleep?
Yeah. That was on the podcast that we cut, by the way, so no one would get that joke.
Oh yeah.
I will just tell the story really quickly. I went back to the UK and was doing the bedtime routine with my niece and nephew, and they were so excited that I was there. You can see they get stimulated a little bit more, kids these days, don't they? They've got iPads and all sorts of things. And my brother and his wife were like, oh, we're knackered. And I said, right, you two go downstairs. I'm going to do a bit of a bedtime routine that seems to work for me, because my brain gets really wired at night sometimes. And I used to make the mistake of firing up my phone and Googling stuff. But now I basically build a hammock where I prop up the pillars and then have some pillars under my knees, so it makes a hammock shape. And then I put some film scores on, which are often very kind of emotive, so they help me relax. And I'll just do some deep breathing. Sometimes I'll do a sleep meditation, but I did it with my niece and nephew, and it was the cutest thing. Like literally, I was starting to fall asleep. It was so lovely. So I was in the middle of them too, but I put them in their sleep hammocks that we built. And then I was like, you have to lie really, really still. And then I just stroked their hair. And it was so sweet. My nephew, basically, because it was like an orchestra, was like doing his little finger, was like kind of almost conducting the orchestra, but he was asleep, like he was falling asleep. But my niece is very similar to me. You can almost see very empathic, very kind of like wired, thinking of everybody at night. And it's like thoughts come to her at night when she lies down. And that was happening to me. And I think I said to your sleep coach said to me, I think everyone needs an afternoon nap to like process a lot of their day, come down one level, and then by the time you get to bedtime at 8-9 o'clock.
Have you seen that little video that's gone around on social media where that guy's like, I just need a day between every other day, like a day just to kind of like get over the day before and prepare for the day coming.
But what I did for her was something that a women's health physio suggested to me. She was like, a really good pose for you, because I've got hip arthritis. She was like, was child's pose. And so what I started doing was when I come in for my dog walk at night, we've got like a big bean bag, and I do child's pose, but with my chest on the bean bag. And I did it with my niece because she was just wired. And I was like, right, you're going to lie in child's pose. And I just stroked her hair and gave her a little lower back rub. And she just went out like a light. And I felt like I was a magician of some sort. I think my brother was like, yeah, that won't happen tomorrow. Like, you're so deluded. And it probably won't, because she may not listen. But I often think I respond really well to being in a certain position, having certain sounds, and things like I often nag you and go, just give me a foot rub, because I can't switch off my brain. And that really, really helps. So yeah, that's what we all need basically at that point in time. I often think if I won the lottery, I would pay someone, like a 6-figure salary to just rub my feet at night, as awful as they are.
Wait. Oh, did you say if you won the lottery?
Yeah.
So say, where are we getting this 6-figure salary from?
And
I'll
to
do that.
stroke my hair. I'd be like, be a nice job. I'm not bad company. In the day, you can have all
It'd be weird
nice
though.
food.
I'm like, where are you trying to watch telly? And there's this like another person in the room just like rubbing your feet or brushing your hair. Well, this is odd.
Anyway, on that note. If you would like to check out Empower Menopause, it is on offer actually for
I was going to say, if there was only a place where you could get all this information,
there is, and
all the support you need.
I should say, by the way, I've got menopause GPs, women's health physios, a trichologist who does hair loss. They've all done sessions in each week.
You got a pretty epic strength coaching as well.
A very good training plan. Yeah. What's his name again? Guy. Yeah, talks about cardio menopause, strength training menopause. And but actually, one of the women who'd done it said she
changed her life.
She did say, I totally sacked off training, and then I did Matt's training plan, and now she's back at the gym, and she was like absolutely over the moon with it. So well done. You got your gold star.
Yeah, you need.
Which you liked. Yeah.
No, but honestly, jokes aside, like Keris isn't very good at blowing her own trumpet, so I'm going to blow it for her. Like she's put so much work into empowered menopause, and honestly, I mean it. Like, it is such an incredible product, and it literally is like everything that you need. And yeah,
it's basically everything.
I was very, very proud of it.
Everything that's helped me and my clients, and I just feel really passionate. It is expensive, and that's why I want to try and help more women, and that's why we've made it.
As in, what's expensive? And perimenopause it's a
No,
bargain.
no, menopause can become expensive
Yeah.
when you're buying these expensive supplements, going to private clinics, paying for private appointments and tests, and it shouldn't be that way. And I think it's a message that me and you have always done this. Like, how do we help people so that everything doesn't seem to, cost the earth, and they still get amazing results? Yeah.
And also like a platform to like, get your questions answered as well.
And
Like
connect with other women.
to help with that personalization element of things. And I think it's always, this is the beauty of a community as well, is that like, like you just said, like a big part of why you created this was because of your journey with it and the things you've learned. And there's going to be other people in there that have, learned a lot themselves, and you'll be able to offer a bit of advice to other people. And it's just, you just help each other out. So I would highly recommend it.
Oh, thank you. But also, if you know someone who's suffering and spending lots of money, and honestly, I've met people that are floored by perimenopause and menopause. It's the saddest thing because it doesn't need to be that way. But as I've said, the information isn't out there, and no one is offering it, in terms of documentaries on the BBC. So this is why, like, please mention it to anybody. And it's a very comprehensive, very integrated
and
approach.
if I'm not mistaken, at this time of recording, it is,
yes, we do have a good discount on as well.
Yeah,
Hamish is here. He's like, come on, guys.
Yeah, he's like, guys, is it dinner time yet?
Yeah,
almost is.
It is. I'm hungry.
But
right.
Thank you for listening, folks. I hope you got some little nuggets of value there amongst all the chit chat on running, dog chases, menopause, and zebras. Yeah, there's got to be something in there.
Yeah.
And we shall see you, lovely lot, in episode 198, closing in on the 200.
Nearly there. Bye bye.
Toodles.